So I graduated with you last year. We finished art school, and it was a great time. I really enjoyed it. I have an existing career as a registered nurse, which I've been doing now for about 9 years, I think, which is flown by. And it's a beautiful job. I really enjoy it. But I think, looking for something a little bit different. So that's why I went to art school, and I think it's made me enjoy nursing so much more. In my practice, I guess there's like a sort of continual theme. I'm interested in constructs and what sort of lies between them and beyond them. Most recently, so the last year or so, I've been exploring the world of care, and ideas of gender and unseen work within that context. I just found that felt was a really good material to use to work through those ideas. The making of it, its histories, and what it provides was really good in articulating those ideas. So I felt that the unease of care, its crucial nature, and all of those things sort of was wrapped up in the material. So yeah.
I guess it's kind of hard to frame this without like directly sort of acknowledging the coronavirus and the lockdown period and how we've all been doing, trying to balance our sort of health, our mental health, and staying okay while we're going through this global pandemic. So I guess, I don't know, something that I really liked that we were able to bond with was our small little gardens that we seen photos of. I thought that was so sweet. Your garden looks so cool. Like it looks very professional and legitimate.
It is not. I do get so much joy from it, from gardening. And I know I guess it's just it is a small thing, but it's just something that I really like. Going out there in the mornings if I have the morning off or something, and then even with my coffee and just being like, oh, you're a little bit bigger, or like, where did you get so big?
Oh, they're your little babies.
It's silly, but I mean, you're so right. You can't really, I don't think you can talk about hope without the opposite, I suppose. Like, I think I've forgotten how, like, what it felt like to be first lockdown. Like, it was quite overwhelming, wasn't it? But I think we got kind of used to it, and it became quite normalized. So
it was really, I've been talking to a few other people about lockdown and how some of us seem to have really quickly adapted to it, and now we're scared of going outside. We don't want to go and like socialize with people anymore. Just want to stay holed up.
I think that lockdown really suits my personality, and that's what I do. And I'm just like, I'm quite happy staying not inside, but like in my own little space, and then like touching base with friends, maybe like far away. But like I miss people, but I'm actually quite happy, and it worries me.
No, I'm the same. Yeah, it's kind of like so many friends right now are trying to like set up plans to meet face to face, and I'm kind of like, oh, I don't. How do you say no and not sound like an asshole?
When I saw a friend for the first time yesterday, I said to her, I'm like, what do you want to do? Do you want to go for a walk, or do you want to come to my place? Or I think we spoke about getting a coffee, and I was just like, what are the cafes like these days? Like, I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know how to life anymore.
What's the norm? There is no norm. And then that kind of reminded me of the comic and the poem that you posted as well, about how it seems like that divide between like the essential workers, the low low skill workers, and the lack of acknowledgement that a lot of people get, the lack of acknowledgement a lot of people on the outskirts of our of society's like periphery get. And that comic in particular made me very, in a straightforward and visual way, I think it was able to connect with a lot of people and sort of laying out the realities that people are living right now, people who are working in supermarkets and hospitals and other areas of essential work. And made me kind of like not so much hopeful as opposed to like angry, I guess. Made me really
Yeah,
angry and really
yeah,
frustrated that this has been the case for ever since
yeah.
these businesses have been around, but it's only now that we're kind of giving that what do you call it when you like just say something nice as opposed to actually.
Oh, I know what you mean. I'm trying to find the word too. Do you feel like it's just words and not action?
I guess like because from what I understood, I guess the extra help the government had been giving workers and giving extra like wage subsidies and things like that. Like that.
Mm,
Oh, it's only during this very serious period of the lockdown, and now
yeah,
that it's over, you don't need it anymore because you obviously
yeah,
time before. I guess that
yeah,
kind of obviously we've done better than other countries, but I still feel like there could have been one more push, I guess, from this
yeah,
experience to help living an actual thing that people do rather than just trying to survive. Yeah.
yeah. It was interesting reading that comic and seeing what her day to day was like, and how she was just living from paycheck to paycheck and not really getting anywhere. And also, I think with some of the big supermarkets were giving a little more money, right? Was it a 10% rate
Yeah,
or
it's
something?
probably like 10%, yeah. And then now
And
it's
in the
over,
I
yeah.
thought I thought it was going to continue. I mean, in an ideal world, it should do, right? But
Yeah.
they've sort of peaked on that. So I don't know, like you get a little bit hopeful, and like this is a time that could potentially be a turning point, like a watershed moment for the world. And it's just get a bit cynical as well, because you're like, oh, it's going to probably stay the same.
Yeah.
But it's just like, whoa,
We were
what can
so
we?
close. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, hard to remain hopeful in that sense when it feels like a lot of the laws and a lot of the actions that are being taken aren't aligning with what the people
yeah.
do and things like that. It's hard. Yeah.
It is hard. And I've been thinking about, what power do we have in those situations? And I think it's like, I mean, obviously it all comes down to policy change,
Mm.
really. Like we've been discussing like a value shift in
Yeah.
our society. I think that's really important. And I think it's been revealed a lot by the pandemic.
Yeah.
Lots of people were talking about, there's been a time of stillness which has given voice to things that are a bit more invisible usually, or a bit quieter, like
Mm.
I think like the healthcare and disability infrastructures and the environment.
Yeah.
These are things that are often ignored. There needs to be some changes, and I'm happy to see the increase of, I think, the budget for the disability services,
Mm. The like
not for
yeah.
health and all of that jazz, which is
Mm.
unfortunate.
Mm.
I think it's like really, really a long time waiting for them.
Mm.
So
Exactly.
yeah,
Do you find that it's kind of hard to sort of like level yourself when it comes to being hopeful and staying hopeful? Like I mentioned before about how I
yeah,
can kind of it like tips the scale from being hopeful to just being really angry. So I become
yeah,
very passionate and then I end up not thinking very realistically, I guess. You just kind of
yeah.
go off on this like huge, I don't know, I guess
Mm.
call them like pipe dreams or whatever, and you just kind of go like, oh my god, why can't things just happen?
Yeah.
And then
I think it's so important to have those pipe dreams, though. Don't you
yeah.
think? Like, if you get to the point where you're like all resigned and this is the way the world is, and then like nothing will ever change.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important. Still give space for those wild imaginings.
Yeah.
I do feel though, and I talked about it in our discussions earlier, that it can easily become quite a depending on its context and how it's sort of portrayed, it can be quite a trite sort of, not, I guess at that stage it's not an emotion, but it's just like it can become like a little bit too big and a little
Yeah.
bit like
Like the perspective is almost blown
too
out.
much.
Yeah, so much that
Yeah,
it like
yeah,
that was like the Matrix thing you'd sent me, right? That was the
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like every sci-fi film, it's just like, why won't you die? Like human die, but they always have hope, and so they always win. Like
It's either like
yeah,
hope or love or
yeah.
yeah.
Or redeeming features or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think I like to think of hope in just as a really personal thing, like what brings you hope in that moment, or what can you find to sort of take yourself through a space or a time that's hard, or just the little things like
Yeah.
new flowers.
Yeah. And it reminded me of my mom, because she, like, during the lockdown, she went a bit like plant crazy, and
Yeah.
she's normally really bad with plants, and for some reason, like, everything she had, she tried to like grow, it just dies within a month for some reason. But
Oh,
she's switched tactics, so now instead of using soil, like, she's growing all her plants just in water. And it's been
ooh,
like
and
this
it seems to be
strange,
working for her.
yeah, it's been this strange experiment. And when she first did it, she was just sending me photos of all the new leaves that were coming out of the plants. And she was so
Cool.
excited, kind of being like,
Yeah.
"Oh, look at this baby leaf. They remind me
It
of
is
you."
oh, remind you of you.
Yeah,
Oh, that's so
like when you
cute.
and your brothers were babies.
You're like, because it's kind of magical. Like it just knows what to do, and so do babies. Like
Yeah,
they
and
just grow.
they just find a way. Yeah.
Yeah. What were you talking about in our discussions? You mentioned something about what your mum taught you, and it was surrounding preparedness in the context of hope.
So I guess, like, every time I go to my mum with some kind of problem or worry I have about the future, or some kind of nervousness that I have, she'd always,
Mm,
first and foremost be like, "Oh, everything's gonna be okay. Like, I understand how you feel. I know what you mean." But then she'd always back it up with like "It's okay to feel like this, but then there's a way to fix it if you want to fix it."
yeah,
Or like
yeah,
there's a way to see a bright side to something, or there's a way to make yourself feel more secure by taking these steps if you'd like. And
sure. Take back your control of the situation, sort of thing.
yeah, so like
Yeah,
one of my biggest worries, I guess, during lockdown was like, "Oh, how am I gonna pay rent? How am I gonna
yeah,
do this and that?" And she'd be like, "Oh, it's okay, don't worry about it. Like, you have people that can help you." But also, I'm sure there's places that are looking for people that do need extra people to hire, and like, you can just go and apply, and then something will come
yeah,
up. And if it doesn't
yeah.
come up, then it just wasn't meant to be, and then you can find
Yeah.
something else. Yeah.
He sounds like she's got a great voice of reason for you.
Yeah. It's great. Sometimes it's too
Yeah.
real and I wanted to stop. Yeah, looking at the cooking that you posted.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
that's
thought that
good.
was very hopeful, and it was really just like how the sun is like such a hopeful sign of
Yeah.
progression, or like constant,
Consistency.
yeah, consistency. I guess like cooking is like similar. It seems similar to me in that, like, you're going through a step-by-step process. There's a next direction that you can follow and guide yourself with, and then you come to
Yeah.
a final conclusion which can be enjoyed by you and your friends, and
Yeah.
that sharing and the consumption and keeping yourself healthy, I guess. And that I
Mhm.
felt like that whole process is like a package of hope that you're
Yeah.
feeding. So you're continuing to feed yourself and keep
Yeah.
yourself alive. Yeah. So
Well, it's a really nice metaphor.
yeah,
I like that.
yeah.
So yeah, I was just thinking about, like, I guess the activity of just of making being the hopeful gesture, but it's really nice to see all of the other aspects you've pulled through that process.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think the shared aspect of it is
Mm.
really interesting.
I felt like I was so lucky during this lockdown because I got to share a meal with someone every single night.
Yeah,
We had two
yeah,
flatmates that I assigned. We all just decided, oh, let's just have flat dinners every single night so that
yeah,
we don't get lonely, or like it doesn't feel
yeah.
weird that we're just like eating at our desks. So we all of us always took turns cooking for each other and
Oh, nice.
making it like a routine, but a nice fun one.
It's been such a difficult time for so many people, isn't it?
Yeah.
Feel very lucky to be here. It could have been, we just didn't know what was coming, did we?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, I just feel so lucky that I have a job. I'm so grateful I have a job, and that, like, I have a little space where I can grow something, and I have plenty of food in the kitchen, and, got a nice sort of environment as well. Got some nice people living with me. Well, my cat and my boyfriend. So, imagine it wasn't like that. It must be hats off to those people, and I hope it gets better for them.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to talk about the White Pube review that you'd uploaded.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
and it would be really good to read the book.
yeah, I
I,
really want to know.
I feel a little bit silly for bringing it up because it's not as if I've even read it, but the review sounded really good.
No, exactly. I feel like it kind of had everything that we wanted to talk about in terms of art, the art world, how to critique it, and how to make it this place and this environment where it is actually genuinely supportive and genuinely productive for the people that these institutions keep saying that they care about. I
Yeah.
feel so many quotes in there that I thought were so intense, and now I just really want to
Yeah,
yeah.
I know. Like Serena quote where she spoke about the chapter in the book that was related to the arts, and I'll read it out because it got me a little bit. And she said, "It's compelling and reaffirming. Reading this chapter reminds me that I used to believe in the romantic power of art before I became this furious character." I'm just like, oh yeah. I don't know. Like when I first went to art school, and I was just like, yeah, art has such an agency for change. And I think maybe that's like too big, and so you can't see the impacts of like little gestures.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why. And then you sort of like get a little bit cynical about what the art world is actually like. Yeah. Oh, it's actually not changing much.
Exactly.
I mean, and it is, and it has. But you become a little bit like, oh, yeah.
I guess along with that romantic power, I guess I thought about how it sounds like this book kind of helps you shift your focus so you still have that belief that the arts and the art world can do something, except you imagine further about what it is that it could do. Kind of like what you mentioned earlier in our earlier conversations about how we can be more playful and more speculative about how to help with art without it becoming this
like lip service.
lip service, or like it's just kind of it's its own insular thing and it refuses to actually expand its own world and include people.
Yeah, I did appreciate her suggestions of what some potential steps were that could be taken. I appreciated that. Yeah, I think they're in London, but they were referring to a smaller area of the UK and potential. I think she suggested potential use of buildings that weren't inhabited. It reminded me of life in vacant spaces.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that was here,
Yeah.
and it's all
Yeah.
post earthquake. Like, I was just really encouraged by that.
Like knowing that the change is happening and that imagined change is being implemented here is quite encouraging, I guess.
Yeah.
Really nice.
It is hopeful.
Yeah.
Makes me feel hopeful.
Yeah.
I also found it quite interesting how they were speaking about making it the discussion around making a case for the economic advantages of art and how it's sort of like, I don't think you can talk about art as it in a way of like usefulness. Like there are definitely really a lot of reasons why art is important, but like they were talking about like more of the importance or significance of the criticality. Is that how you say the word?
I think so. The critical critique. I don't know. It's been too long since art school.
There's words finding them in my brain. Oh my god. And yeah, we need to look further than utility or usefulness, and that it, in fact, in its way, it is very, very important in socially thinking through changes that are required or critiques of what are happening at the moment.
Yeah, that bit that he talked about where just starting from the basics of like pay everyone that works there, stop volunteering and just pay people and make sure that they have that security so that they can do what like the people who are involved in art can actually live with the art rather than like wasting away, I guess. I don't know.
Being able to what is that phrase? Not being able to live your best life.
I think we kind of talked about it last night as well, but I guess I wanted to go a little bit deeper or ask a little bit more about how elements of hope or hopefulness play in your process of making,
Yeah,
how that manifests itself, I guess, in your physical doing.
interesting.
Mm.
I guess conceptually it plays a role. I guess I like to imagine situations or times where things might be better, especially for my last year's work, which was looking at, like I've described, looking at care and looking at things that have slipped through the cracks and sort of people whose experiences aren't so great because there aren't resources. The person who is a caregiver to someone's grandma might not be able to send their kids to preschool because, you know, the resources aren't sort of shared around equally. And then also, I think when it comes into play during the making sort of aspect of work as well. I remember when I first started felting, and I didn't really know what I was doing, so it was a lot of experimentation. So there was a lot of hope that things would sort of work out, and also a sense of letting go and just seeing what was going to happen. What also something that was full of hope, you know, like
Yeah.
even if it doesn't work out how I want it to be, it could be lead me in a sort of different direction, one that's even better.
No,
Yeah, just
definitely.
some
I like,
simple ways.
yeah,
Yeah. Can I ask you the same question about your work
yeah.
in the role of hope?
I guess it's kind of similar to you in the sense of trying to imagine a thing or imagine a future where there are certain things that are possible. Like when I look at my work and how I approach it, I'm always hopeful about perhaps overcoming the barriers I feel when around communication and around connections with people. I want to make work that acknowledges that and acknowledges the less the hope but the despair that I feel with the fact that I struggle with these connections and struggle with having
Mm.
clarity with connections, but I feel that I try to bring in, I guess, a playful hopefulness.
Mm.
But
Totally.
yeah, by making people either feel okay about the barriers that exist or overcome those barriers with that playfulness and maybe
Hmm.
another way of getting around those obstacles of
Hmm.
communication and connectivity. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Your
Like
hand
whisper.
illustrations though, they're
Oh,
so
yeah, thank you.
beautiful.
Thank you, darling.
I feel like they really just like when you first posted them, I was kind of like, oh my god, that just kind of captures everything I feel right now. like, like I don't know, the like absence and the kind of desire to reach out and the desire to hold something and hold someone's hand at least, but then
Yeah,
not having that or like not actually wanting that, but the idea of it sounding lovely and
yeah,
all those like complicated feelings
yeah.
in one image, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was also I was also thinking about Anne Boyer. She said something like, "What we don't do is also great and full of love," or something. So
Mm.
I was thinking about the absence being an act of love, as
Mm.
well as as well as a really difficult thing. But I guess I was also thinking about value placement
Yeah.
when it comes to health and all of that. Like I've always noticed, like I remember because I was in London for a little bit, and I remember walking around the financial district. I was working as a personal carer in a gentleman's home in North Norfolk. And so I'd gone there for the weekend. These people walking around furiously, you know, like, dressed so beautifully, and it's so plush. And I'm just like, man, like this guy I'm looking after is dying. He is dealing with mortality and the family, beautiful families, sort of managing their way through this, and then these people like there's just so much money, and I sort of got just like a little bit angry. I'm just like, where are the resources for
Mm.
something that everybody is going to go through? We all die. We all are children at some point. So where is the where are the resources for something that we just need?
I can't remember. I feel like it was you brought up the topic ages ago, but helping people not necessarily come to terms with it, but understand the life cycle and the cycles of the environment, the cycles of nature, and help people to be at peace with the idea of death and not be scared by it. Kind of fixing the culture that is quite prevalent, I guess, within I guess stereotypically like Western culture of making death this separate and this diseased or this gross thing, whereas we should really be including it within just an everyday understanding. And put it within our minds as something out of, I don't know, respect or love or care and hope, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I would be going through a personal journey if I was ever to like engage with that topic, because I'm quite scared of death and disease. I think it's just like a thing that sort of happened since working as a nurse. Like I used to be chilled out, or maybe it's just a getting older thing. I don't know. But it terrifies me. And so it would be amazing to like really investigate that and try and come to terms with that phase.
Yeah,
because it's as much part of life as death, right? So
exactly.
yeah, I guess I do it when I just woke up or I was about to get out of bed on like a lazy weekend, and then it's just like the arm goes up, and then it sort of is balanced there and is sort of sitting back inside my shoulder joint, and then it's like not going, it's sort of like going forward and backwards a little bit, but it's just nice and settled. And then all of a sudden it's a bird, and it's cheeky, and it's looking at the person beside you, or it's looking out the window, and it just is ready for the day. It's interested and playful. And sorry, I'm a bit nervous.
No, it's okay. You're doing great.
I don't know why.